Hey, gang, welcome into the best damn pod in the land. We are back. It's a non-Buckeye Friday. Unfortunately, Dan, it's the bye week. We're not going to call it the inspirational week or whatever Austin Ward's been calling it, but we are here. We're back. I didn't think I'd be this bummed about a bye week. I don't know about you. What about you?
I told you, man, I was depressed as soon as the game ended on Saturday.
Yeah, I think because we waited so long for football to be back, and it's back, and then they've looked so good and so dominant, and I kind of just wanted them to keep rolling, and take like the week 8 bye week or something, and then my wife was like, I looked at the game calendar and it looks like there's no game this weekend. I was like, going to the pumpkin patch.
Busted.
So, yeah. She's like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, there's no game this weekend. She's like, great, I get my husband, and I'm like,
it's definitely, you go through a little bit of withdrawals, and like to your point, you said, they looked so good compared to recent years this early in the season that you just wanted them to see them keep building upon it. And it's cheesy, but I get what Ryan's doing by calling it an improvement week. Like during a normal bye week, players are off, man. Like they're flying home and all that other kind of stuff. And, they practiced, I think, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. And then I think they were off like Thursday, Friday, but he's got them coming back on Saturday because there's practice on Sunday. So that's one less night, something after dark bad doesn't happen. But I mean, listen, man, they're locked in.
Yeah.
Ryan's in his serial killer assassin mode, and, I get it.
Yep. Speaking of getting it, I got our new shirts. I sent you one, wearing it. So
yep.
We're working out the design still a little bit, guys, but there will be merch available sooner rather than later. I'm working on all that. It's been just more challenging than I thought to find somebody locally that can do some screen printing. So, but I mentioned that because next Saturday, the Marshall game, Dan, will be finishing our quote unquote Blitz to 500. We are at 448.
Oh, we got picked up another one this morning.
Yeah. Well, your expert opinion on the NOA on Juck's show this morning, I think helped. But yeah, we're doing the Blitz to 500. We're going to do the $50 giveaway for the Buckeye Corner gift card. So all of that's still happening. Everything's still going on. We extended it. Everybody has been really cool, but they want to know why we want to do that. It's really so that one of the things I found out about the features with YouTube is that for us to be recommended like as a next video or something for folks that watch whether you watch Juck or whether you watch Menace or whoever it is, and that show wraps up, it'll give you several shows that are like that. And from what I can understand with the algorithm, you need 500 subscribers for that to even be a feature for you. So that's our main goal, guys, is just, to get our show out there a little more. But Dan, so you talked about it this morning a little bit on Juck's show, and I think I'm really, really interested on this. You said that you feel like the Michigan, I'm going to do like 2 minutes on this, might be negotiating punishment. You think that they're trying to negotiate punishment?
You really think you can keep me to 2 minutes on this?
I don't know. I they were so bullish and pig-headed and putting out the word bet everywhere that I find it hard to believe that now they'll be like, cooperative and willing to, I don't know, bend the knee to the NCAA. But
well, I mean, here's the deal. I don't think everybody really truly understands the way the NOA process works, right?
Yeah.
And when that draft of the NOA got leaked, it didn't include all the investigative evidence that gets turned over with the NOA.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just mind-boggling to me that when that draft was leaked, everybody was like, well, there's no evidence in there. It doesn't even mention advanced scouting. And it's like, did you forget about the 13-page letter from the Big Ten that referenced all the evidence they had? Do you think that just got lost in an evidence, locker, that the evidence locker got, robbed? You
They
know,
put a
like
big magnet beside of it and sucked the computer up against it,
yeah,
like in
like
Breaking Bad.
what I mean, what are you thinking? Like, of course, so the actual evidence gets turned over with the NOA. So prior to that, yeah, Michigan was bullish because they didn't really think they had much more than was in the letter from November. But apparently, according to, and I want to give credit where credit is due, the guy, Premium Drum or Premier Drum on 11 Warriors, who is nothing more than an internet sleuth. And if you don't think internet sleuths actually uncover stuff, just go to Netflix and look at documentaries. There's one about F My Cats or something like that. Watch that one. Internet sleuths can find out information that other people can't. But he's apparently been really spot on throughout all of this. Obviously Scoop's been out ahead of it with a lot of accurate information. But the reality is that when the NOA got issued, it included all of the investigative information and evidence. And that's when you started to see Ward Manuel backpedal a little bit. He went on a Scam Web show and he basically said, we're going to fight when the time is right. But, if we broke the rules, then we have to go ahead and, accept accountability to that. That was a completely different tone than anything we had seen prior to that. So this notion that they saw the evidence, and then also, once the NOA is issued, there are conversations that take place about like, hey, listen, this is what we've got on the table for sanctions. You need to take that into consideration when you reply. And so, while the goal of the NCAA is to try to get this resolved before an NOA is ever issued, that didn't happen. But now that Michigan's seen all the evidence, they're like, okay, what do we need to do? And that brings us to what sanctions are currently on the table. So this is pretty good information as to what has been heard. Okay. So this came from a really good source that what the NCAA wants is they want Michigan to vacate all of their wins for all 3 years, including Big Ten titles and the College Football Playoff National Championship. Apparently, the Big Ten and the CFP committee has agreed to follow suit with that and vacate the titles.
Wow.
There's a $10 million fine on the table. Lifetime bans, never before done before, for Harbaugh and Stallions, and 5-year bans for Moore, Minter, Jay Harbaugh, and others. Now, what did not come through in that information was anything regarding additional postseason bans. I'd be really surprised. And maybe if Michigan ends up just accepting it and all of that, the NCAA might say, you know what, that's enough. If there's any sort of negotiation for, my understanding is that Michigan, they are dead fast and not giving up anything in 23 because that's the natty, right?
Yeah.
I can see a postseason ban coming online after that. I don't know. But man, it makes sense as to why this thing hasn't been leaked yet. It makes sense to the tone in Ward Manuel's, demeanor and statements.
Yeah.
It's all starting to make sense. And it's like I told Chuck this morning, what is it they say about conspiracy theories? Like they're only conspiracies until they're proven true.
Yeah, that's true.
So, a lot of Michigan folks have been screaming conspiracy theory. It's going to be bad, man.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and you're starting to see again, the NCAA has never vacated wins when it didn't involve an ineligible player. Well, you know what else the NCAA has never had to rule on is an on-field cheating scandal like this. So there is no precedent. Like, stop.
No,
there's no precedent to this.
No, there's not. I think that's what I've been, I think I kind of tuned out because I'm just so annoyed with like, there's two polar opposite sides and it's kind of like political theater with Michigan and Ohio State where, over here we're all like, well, they have to do something. This was really bad. And then on the Michigan side, they're like, well, we didn't do anything and everything's fine. And so you're never going to find common ground there. Because they were just down bad for 20 plus years. And, they finally got a couple wins and they don't want to let go of those. And even the folks that have said, well, if they take them away, I still saw it with my own eyes. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, I saw us play Arkansas. With Terrell Pryor at quarterback. I was at the game. Doesn't matter. They still took it away. So that's that. So, all right. One other thing about the NCAA, Dan, is this booth targeting review. And I bring this up. I meant to bring it up on Tuesday and then I rewatched the game like on fast forward basically because it was a drubbing of Western Michigan, and but I stopped for the booth review with Denzel Burke, and I don't get it. I don't think they know what targeting is, because honestly, the hit prior to Denzel seemed like it was worse. So what can they do to fix this? I understand, after seeing Tua the other night, I understand, I guess it was last night, CTE. I know it's a big thing. I know it's real. I know it happens. I've had 5 concussions. I get it. But on the same side, that was in the spirit of targeting. If they called that, they should have called the targeting call for Marvin Harrison Jr. against Georgia in the Peach Bowl, because that was way more targeting than this was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point, I think it was Caleb Downs who came in on the same play. I thought that's who they were going to get for targeting. I honestly thought they were going to end up both get it. The Denzel Burke thing, man, it's just, here's what they need to do. They're not going to take away. I don't think they're ever going to make it a judgment call. And that sounds a little odd because at the end of the day, it is a judgment call, right? The booth reviews it and they have to judge whether it was targeting or not. But they need to get rid of this automatic ejection thing. You want to keep it 15 yards, keep it 15 yards, fine, whatever. But the automatic ejection thing, I think that's where there needs to be some, discretion.
Yeah.
Because to have a kid, in his senior year with only so many games left.
And it was a home game.
We're not even talking about the playoffs or, a conference championship game or anything else like that. We're just talking regular season, but, it's silly. It can change the course of the game way too much to have it be an automatic ejection.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for. So they used to do the 5-yard and 15-yard face mask penalty. Dan, you remember that? I'm sure. And the roughing or running into the kicker. I'm a proponent of, let's do one where it's he didn't make helmet to helmet contact with the crown of his helmet. Okay. That didn't those two things didn't happen. So make it unnecessary roughness if you want, however you want it to be, and give them a 15-yard penalty, but let the kids stay in the game. And then there's the ones where the kids launch at you with the crown of their helmet into the guy's neck or back or whatever face mask. Then call it legitimate targeting and boot him out of the game. I'm okay with that. But what Denzel Burke did, that was not an ejectable offense. And it bothered me, and I rewatched it. I'm like, I don't get what they're doing here, because it's not making any sense. It's like, what? I don't understand. And and then you had Dean Blandino saying, no, this isn't targeting. So your own people are saying it's not targeting. And I know Burke wasn't going to play much more. I know we were going to see a lot of depth. It was 21-0 already. I get all of that, but it's a home game in a kid's senior year for something that really shouldn't have been called. And I'm waiting for the apology letter from the NCAA.
They review all of it, right? Ooh, excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah.
They review all of it, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't, you can tell how Ryan felt about it because he more or less bit his tongue.
Yeah. What's he going to do? He was more mad about the Brandon Ennis not getting forward progress later in the quarter than he was about that. But so tiny nugget of recruiting news this week. So Jerome Miles announced that he's the wide receiver out of Corner Canyon, same school that Devin Brown went to in Utah. He announced that he's going to be committing on September 18th, but he left Ohio State off his top 3. So Ohio State's out of it. It's USC, Utah, and one other team. And people asked why. The only thing I can say is they got in on him late, and then they had a couple other commitments. And yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't take every 5-star wide receiver, Dan. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by it, especially after the Phillip Bell commitment. Next. Yeah. I still think that we're going to get a flip at that position from one of the bigger guys. I think my money is mainly on Vernon Brown. I still think he's in play.
It trips me up because he's a legacy. The one that I'm surprised by is the Texas, with Jamie French and DeCorian Moore. I didn't think those guys wanted to play together, so that would be the one that I was kind of paying.
Well, DeCorian Moore's at Oregon.
Oh, he's at Oregon. Who was the other one? Was it Trey Wingo?
He had the gender reveal for his commitment video.
Oh, okay. I don't know. All right. Well, yeah, maybe we flip somebody then. I don't know why the heck I was thinking he went to Texas. So yeah, not much news there. Recruiting's fairly quiet. They're pretty focused on some 2026 kids. They did drop an offer to an out-of-state offensive lineman for 2026. Another one. So
he's down in Georgia.
Excuse me.
He's committed to Georgia Tech.
Okay. So they're out there surfing, and then I got in on this Twitter thread, which I don't normally do, but I did.
Did I miss this?
It was about Levi Davis, and I just basically said, look, like the 2026 quarterback is such an unknown thing because you have Julian and Tavian the next few years. Not discounting that, things could change, certainly, but it looks like those will be your two guys. So why not take a flyer on a Levi Davis? My comp for him is Troy Smith, like the size, the arm strength, the build, local hometown roots. He doesn't play for Glenville, but I mean, that's about the only thing that's not the same. Troy Smith at his tallest might've been 5'11", at best. He was not a big dude, not a big quarterback. Mobile, I don't have a problem with them taking a flyer on Levi Davis. I don't know about you, but that would be that's kind of going to be my, champion. I'm going to champion the Levi Davis corner for 2026.
Yeah. I mean, you and Chris Drew. I mean, I agree. I mean, but everybody keeps talking about, we should take Levi. Well, Levi might end up having some pretty damn good offers by the time the dust settles.
Oh,
a chance to actually play somewhere, know? Oh. So, but I'm with you. I mean, I just don't think it's Ryan's prototypical guy.
It's not.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it probably won't. I think he'll end up at, Indiana or, somewhere like that and make us regret it. So,
yeah.
All right, Dan. So,
I mean, heck, Michigan can use them right now, to be honest with you.
They probably could. Let's do a little bye week prep cooking here, Dan. The improvement week or whatever. I don't call it one. It's so stupid.
It's actually growing on me.
Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. So what are 3 things, like if you're Ryan Day and you're ramping up for Marshall, that you're focused on as a coach? I listed out mine, kind of what I'm thinking. And so number 1 for me, we have to, because, and this goes back to, the guy's name just went right out of my head. He wore number 30 and he fumbled.
Demario McCall,
and he fumbled a kickoff. close to the end of the first half against Michigan, and Michigan recovered and scored. And I remember screaming, "That's how you lose football games." But I'm paralleling that with our kick return game right now with a couple mishaps, like pinning ourselves in deeper than we needed to be, inside of our own 10 with Jaden Ballard. So if I'm Ryan Day, I'm taking a real hard look at that. And I don't know who's coaching kick returns right now. But I know, and I put in my notes that I remember Brian Hartline helped Ted Ginn. Like, he was one of the safe returners when Trussell used the 2 punt returners sometimes. And so I know Hartline knows punt returns, but I don't know who's coaching the kick returns. But that needs fixed. And now, sorry,
Well,
Jane.
and I was going to say, this is going to break your heart, but Ryan more or less said that, Jaden's not going to be back there anymore.
Okay.
I mean, apparently the entire sideline was screaming at him not to fair catch that opening kickoff of the second half.
Yeah.
And Ryan's made it clear in his press conferences that they're supposed to catch everything. I just don't. I mean, that's like a 10 or 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
And, I found it really interesting that Ryan went out of his way to mention Mylan Graham in his press conference yesterday, or his radio show or whatever.
Yeah.
And said, we need to get him on special teams, likely kickoff.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So I think we end up seeing him back there. I wouldn't be shocked if it's not as early as this next game against Marshall. I will be entirely and utterly shocked if Jaden Ballard is back there for kickoffs against Marshall.
Yeah, the other guy that I had in my mind, and nobody said this, was Sam Williams-Dixon, because I saw what he did up here. So he has the ability to do that, and he's twitchy and he's quick.
I don't know if they have the luxury to do this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they would prefer to redshirt him.
Okay.
But again, I just don't know how realistic that is. I mean, I think he's got carries in both games so far, right?
Yeah,
or is
he's
it just
already
one?
played in both games. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if he takes a couple to the house, then it's worth it, right?
Yeah. We'll see. But the number 2 is, for me, was paring down the tight end rotation. And I feel like I'm probably going to get screamed at a little bit about this, but I think they just need to play Jelani and let it. Jelani is tight end 1. Jelani now is tight end 1. He's going to be the future at the position. You have another, couple kids coming in behind him. Nate Roberts being one of them. Let Kazmarek be tight end 2. I know that G played better, but Jelani's upside, man, I just think you need to just let the kid go. I think you need to let's not do what Ohio State always does. Let's do something different. And I think Jelani, I want to pare down the rotation, and I want Jelani to play the whole time.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting. Let's see how it plays out. I mean, Jelani got the most snaps at tight end in the second game. I think Will was second and G was third, but they were all within a couple plays of each other. Here's the reality, man, is you need more than 2. I mean, hell, we had one touchdown. Was it last night? Or, I'm sorry, was it against Western Michigan? I think it was the first touchdown. We had 4 tight ends on the field.
Bird was out there,
yeah. You need more than 2. It's just, who are they? And, G, I saw him get out and actually, that holding penalty to me was actually cause for optimism, because in the past he was actually engaged with somebody out in space, whereas in the past he wouldn't have even got to the guy or touched him. So you can clean that up. So I don't know, man. It's really frustrating though, because you just I want to see the want to and the will do.
Yeah,
but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think, especially from a passing perspective, Jelani needs to be the guy.
Yeah. I don't think Jelani's game was flawless. I mean, I do think he probably could have caught that ball that that Will Howard tossed him in the end zone. I know it was a little bit out of his reach, but I was watching it on the replay and I thought it was late, but it could have been caught. So yeah, but again, there's going to be growing pains with a young player like that. But I think they need to do it because you will not have G next year. You might get Kazmarek back for one more year, but and you got a lot of youth behind them, so you're gonna have Jelani's gonna have to be the guy you think he can be. All right, so then Dan, linebacker and defensive line rotations. I need this to continue. I need air to breathe. I need them to continue to work in those young defensive linemen. I want to see more Caden McDonald. I want to see more Hero Canoe. I want to see, Kenyatta's not young and Caden's not young, but I like that I got to see Edric Houston. I like to see, there were several plays where I saw Mitch Melton. And then towards the end of the game, I thought I was really impressed with the depth that they played, and so that, and I need Arvell Reese out there at linebacker as much as they can play him.
Yeah, no, and I think that's going to continue happening, and I think CJ is going to get fewer and fewer snaps.
You don't think they're going to end up putting him at defensive end?
No. Brian's more or less said we've got more than enough guys at defensive end. Like, they're not going to force feed that. They're not going to. I mean, listen, not everybody fits in everybody's scheme. Like you're not going to go and get some 6'6", 260-pound quarterback to run the triple option for you. So he just doesn't fit the scheme.
It's about what Will Howard was when he came in, wasn't it? 6'6", 250.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of like a Roethlisberger type guy.
I was just messing with you, Jared Lorenzen. Rest in peace.
But he doesn't. He thinks way too much out there when he's at linebacker, and yes, he could cause havoc off the edge, but I think it's more likely that he stays in the linebacker rotation and they blitz him that way than to move him to the end. We got way too many ends.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't even bring up that Josh Mickens was on the field because I was trying to figure out who that 53 was playing at defensive end.
So 53 or 52?
I don't remember. It was one or the other. I remember looking at it and going, who the heck is that?
Such an odd number for a defensive end.
That's why I was thrown. I was like, okay. All right, Dan. So we looked at. Did you have anything you want to add to that? Like, if you're a coach, what are you doing? Like, did I take your three when I sent you the notes?
No, I'm working on some tackling.
Okay.
Especially open field. Jeff Hafley did a really good job of making that a focus of ours, and I don't want it to be an issue down the road. But yeah, I mean, the other stuff you touched on is right on par with what I would have talked about.
Okay. All right. Very good. So we are in, full on bye week mode. So there's all kinds of shenanigans going on out there. I call them shenanigans. So, and you and Juck talked about this too, but Juck's
the one that started it.
Well, thanks, Juck. Cause then you got me all involved in it. I don't want to be involved. So the 1 year only freshman Jeremiah Smith or senior Marvin Harrison Jr. And you get one, and that so don't, like you said, you can't count the next 2 years of Jeremiah Smith.
And to clarify, it's this year.
Yes.
Who would you rather have on this team?
Yeah. And so, I people are very divided on this topic, Dan. And, I get that. I don't think on that hitch route, I don't know that Marv takes that to the house like JJ did. It's really tough for me because I feel like sophomore year Marv was better than junior year Marv, and that's saying something. But sophomore year,
what was the difference that year between those 2 years?
He wasn't making business decisions, man.
No, he's a quarterback.
Besides that, but yeah, I mean, Marv did. I mean, but honestly, man, Marv made some business decisions last year too. That's not. But yeah, all that to say, I would take Marv. So I think Marv's big playability, with Howard giving him the ball, and Mark, maybe JJ has the the reach and the flexibility and can make the grabs that Marv did. And we're talking about 2 games into a kid's freshman season, which that should tell you everything you need to know. But as far as like this team, it's like 52-48 for me. I would take Marv.
Yeah, it's been about two. I mean, on those polls, it's about 2/3 JJ, and yeah, there's a recency bias to that. But my initial reaction to that was JJ because of his willingness to block.
Mm.
And then, another thing to consider, I mean, I don't know what the rule is on this, but if Marv was still on this team, does that mean we don't have JJ? I think the question was an either or. You can only have one of them. I picked JJ because of his willingness to block. And I think he's more explosive than Marv.
Mm.
And the fact that we're talking about a true freshman,
right,
18 years old, 2 games into his career, and a 4th-year Marv, that's all I need to know about JJ. Like, JJ might, I mean, Marv was picked, what, 3rd or 4th?
Yeah, he was top 5, yeah.
I think he was 4th because 3 quarterbacks were taken before him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Depending on who the quarterbacks are in a couple years, JJ could be number 1 overall.
Fair.
First since
26.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are projecting Julian number 1 overall and JJ number 2 that year. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch for sure. So I had this rolling around in my head, Dan, and do you believe or think teams down the road are prepping for Ohio State, even if they can find a way to slow or stop them? So like what I'm getting at is Ohio State has so many playmakers. Like, if you could stop one guy, somebody else is going to make plays. And I feel like for me, it's almost, I literally wrote it in my notes. Like, it's like Novocaine, like give it time. It's eventually going to work. So, whether it's Q or Trey or Mac or JJ, whatever, Carnell, one of the tight ends, if you're trying to prep for them, who would you try to take away? Like, what would you try to, if you're going to make them one dimensional, are you putting it on Will Howard or are you putting it on our offensive line?
No, absolutely. I'm stopping the run game.
Okay.
And I'm taking away the short stuff and making Will beat us deep. Now, that is a hell of a lot easier said than done.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I mean, but I'm selling out to stop the run. A second, I need to plug in. Bear with me.
You're fine, man.
There you are. Okay. Yeah, I'm selling out to stop the run, and I'm making Will Howard beat me. But I think Chip and Ryan are smart enough to dial up some stuff that allows Will to be, efficient enough to where the running game opens back up again. It's going to be really hard to stop this team. I mean, it just is. So it's not, somebody's not going to beat us by taking away one aspect of our game.
No.
They're going to beat us because they have equivalent talent. They run their scheme and they say, we're going to do what we do best. You do what you do best. We're confident we're going to come out on top. We're talking about teams like a Georgia, a Texas, maybe an Alabama. We're going to see here in a month whether Oregon is a, pretender or contender.
Find out Saturday night if Oregon's a contender or not.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I just don't, if I had to choose one though, I would choose to take away the running game.
Okay. All right.
Put the ball in the hands of Will.
Well, Dan, I know we don't have a Buckeye game, but are you doing any best bets this weekend? You have any best bet props?
You know what? I am going to do one.
Okay.
I am going to go, and this is total bias, but I am going to go Arizona plus the 7.5 tonight against Kansas State.
I'm actually excited to watch that game too.
Yeah.
So I tuned in to our friend Chef Andre's Cocaine Willie podcast the other night. They went live and they were talking about the Arizona game, and they were talking about how like they really believe it's going to be a very difficult game. And most of them picked within 3 or 4 points for Kansas State to win. So I think Chef might have said 27-24. something like that. I didn't write it down, and I should have. And I'm actually taking Arizona straight up. So I think
I like the way
Arizona
you're
gets it
thinking.
done.
Yeah, you know what's weird about this game? It's not a conference game.
No, it's not.
It was a game that was on the schedule as a non-conference opponent. Because of the way the schedule balanced out, they both decided to play the game, but it won't count against the Big 12 standings or tiebreakers or anything else like that, unless they were to get to like out of conference tiebreakers. You know, if they went far enough down the tiebreaker chain. In which case, I don't know if head-to-head ever become. I mean, I guess head-to-head would be thrown out. Since it's not a conference game. But, you know, there's a couple sexy games on there that I'm really interested to see what happens with Oregon and Oregon State. What is that, a 3:30 kickoff?
Yeah, it is. It's 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 your time. Yeah, I mean, so I personally, because I'm just this person, I would have rather this been a night game. Because this is going to be 12:30 Eastern out there. So, man, I would have loved for. I mean, I remember the old school, you know, games where USC I can remember USC going up there and getting beat one time in the early 2000s, and it helped Ohio State a lot. And man, that's one of those games. It's you truly throw out the records. Michigan Ohio State type football game. And if I'm not wrong, if I'm not crazy, I think Oregon's lost 3 of the last 4 in Corvallis.
They have, and Dan Lanning lost 2 years ago in Corvallis.
Yeah, that's a weird place to play, man. Especially at night. Like they get, I don't know, man. It's just it's like Penn State. There's nothing around. It's you know,
it's literally 1/3 the size of Penn State.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's just it's a funky place to play, and that's a rivalry, man. Like they hate each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was curious.
And the fact I'm sorry, the fact this is earlier in the season rather than the last game of the year, I think plays in the favor of Oregon State.
Yeah. I'm curious to you, and this is just me, because, you know, in Ohio, we have the Ohio Bobcats, and then we have Ohio State, so Ohio University. And so a lot of Ohio kids do go to OU. They do. And I feel like the same could be said for Oregon State. And do you think they have like they come into this rivalry with a chip on their shoulder because they didn't get to go to the Nike school? You know, do you feel the same way, or am I crazy?
No, no, they definitely feel that way. I mean, Oregon's got a national recruiting footprint, and Oregon State's pretty much, you know, regional, if not state. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of kids, you know, that, you know, grew up with that rivalry and, you know, have a true distaste for the other team.
Yeah. The other banger I'm kind of interested in, and if I hear one more person say that Alabama is coming north, it's going to be 80 degrees in Wisconsin at kickoff. In November.
Somebody posted that the other day, and they knew what they were doing. Like when we've talked about SEC playing up north, we talked about in the elements. Like this isn't the same thing.
Come up here in November.
And which we're going to see him come up in December.
Yeah.
Oftentimes during this first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. So I mean, this would be an interesting one to gauge where Fix got these Wisconsin boys playing. I don't think they have enough to get by Bama, but I think that at Wisconsin, jump around, but it's a noon game again. And so it's 11 Eastern.
Is it a big noon kickoff?
Central. It might be, but it just kills me. Like two of these games would be fantastic night games, like amazing. I would love it. If I was a Wisconsin fan, I'd be like, dang it, give me a night game in Madison against these guys, and we could have some real fun. Freaking TV networks.
It's got to be the big noon kickoff. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. And then BC goes to Mizzou. BC, you know, some street cred, beats Florida State. That's not saying much the way DJU played, but Mizzou, you know, I think DJ's got things working for him in Missouri, and they're not a bad football program. I do think this one ends up close at half. I think Mizzou's speed pulls away late. But Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's early in the season. There's not a lot of film to watch of Bill O'Brien in BC. They, he's a good coach, so we'll see what he's got dialed up. He's got those boys playing well.
I just don't know if they have the athletes, Dan.
Their quarterback is really talented. I don't know where the kid transferred from, but I'm pretty sure he's a transfer guy. But he's a pretty talented guy, and he's got them playing confident. They're 2-0 and they're ranked.
Yeah. All righty. So I watched a little bit of the Arizona State game last night too, and their quarterback's got a little bit of wiggle to him. But so Ole Miss goes to Wake Forest. Ole Miss is the Fighting Lane Kiffins are gonna have a lot of fun in that game, and it'll be over by the end of the midway through the second quarter. Tulane at Oklahoma is one I'm watching. So Tulane, they lost their quarterback to the draft. I'm not sure it's the same Tulane team as last year, but they tend to make things interesting. They always seem to show up. So what do you think, Dan? Oklahoma easy, or is that one going to be closer than the experts think? As they would say?
What's the line? Do we know?
I don't remember what the line was, man.
I mean,
don't pay attention to the lines.
Listen, I think that's a classic early season gotcha game.
Okay.
All right. I mean, Tulane did go in and lose to Kansas State last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'd feel a lot better if they had won. That's one of those games that, that could be the weekend game where the home team just doesn't take them serious and is down and everything else like that. But Oklahoma seems to be playing okay so far. They haven't looked awful in one of their early season games like they have in the past.
Okay.
So we'll see.
All right. Georgia travels to Kentucky. I feel like this game might be sneaky good.
This should have been the game of the week. It should have been where game day was going. Now they're going to LSU in South Carolina. I mean, Kentucky just laid an absolute egg last week against South Carolina after South Carolina almost lost to Old Dominion in week 1. So, I mean, this should have been a much more hyped up game. I think Georgia goes in here and looks like Georgia.
Okay. I don't know. I just have a feeling. It's just a feeling. I feel like Kentucky knows they blew one away last week. They just missed an opportunity at South Carolina. They're back home. Georgia's traveling. Georgia might take them a little lightly after watching that film. My question for Kentucky is around their offensive line, but I don't know. I just think this one might be just a little closer than everybody expects. And then Oklahoma State at Tulsa. I expect Oklahoma State to absolutely roll Tulsa, and easy pickings there. And then LSU, South Carolina. Dan, who you got?
Where is it?
I think it's at LSU, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's at South Carolina.
Let me look.
Let me know where it's at.
Let's see. LSU versus South Carolina. So you're right. It's at South Carolina.
Night game?
Let's see. Kickoff is set for noon. 6.5 is the.
I'm not going to touch the line. I'll take LSU for the win. You know what? Forget that. I'm gonna take South Carolina. They're 2-0, right?
Yeah, same. I'm taking them straight up. I think their defensive line gives LSU fits in.
I think Dylan Stewart
man, I really want to
is known on the national level after this. He should already be.
Yeah.
Kid is a freak.
It makes me so sad inside that we didn't get him. All right, Dan. Well,
always next year.
Yeah. It's a non-Buckeye Friday. Kind of a little sad. Have to go to the pumpkin patch. all those fun things.
Early for the pumpkin patch.
Well, when I say the pumpkin patch, maybe I'll do a little plug here for Ramsire Farms. Ramsire Farms is basically like an amusement park, and they have rides and corn mazes and all those things. They do have a pumpkin patch, but there's all kinds of entertainment for the kids. You can buy a season pass. So my family has season passes. My wife takes them after school sometimes, and they go play. And there's giant slides and playgrounds, and like our whole community is there all the time. Like, it's insane. Google it. Ramsire Farms, Worcester, Ohio. So it's like 25 minutes from our house or so. And we will end up getting pumpkins there, but we go and the kids are there for hours, and there's food trucks and a gift shop and hay rides and tractor pulling competitions. And yeah, so it's not like I'm not going out and picking a pumpkin and coming back. We're there for like the entire evening if you go, and they do a movie like on a outside movie. And yeah, it's we live in Ohio, man. There ain't much to do but watch football and go to pumpkin patches. So
I know Duck's going to a high school game tonight. Are there any good high school games for you to go to?
oh yeah, I went to a junior high football game last night to watch a couple of the kids. So the team I'm coaching, their older brothers are playing. So we went and watched them, and then we had practice. But yeah, there's always I'm going to drive over to Bellefontaine to watch Tavian St. Clair one of these Friday nights. Just take my wife and go out to dinner and take her over there. So I just need to get one of our moms to watch our kids. So.
How far of a drive is that for you?
Hour and 15. It's not.
Oh, I'm sure Morgan's just beyond excited to do that.
Well, I'll bribe her with like super fancy food or something and some cheesecake, and she'll do it. Babe, it's a Friday night.
What's
the closest one?
Like, where would your kids go if they went to public school?
If they went to public school,
yeah.
It'd probably be Dalton. Like we're right on the line between Dalton and Smithville, so I'd honestly have to look at that. I don't know the answer to that question, which is really weird. I'll say Dalton just because like that. I think that's probably where the neighbor kids go. But yeah, there's that. But Massillon's 20 minutes away, so like if I want to go watch the first half of a Massillon Tiger game, it's easy peasy for me.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's actually probably every bit as close as the Dalton game, because it's just harder to get to across the country roads and stuff.
Cool.
Fun times. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys. Remember, we're doing our Bliss to 500. We've got officially 8 days left to get to 500. We're at 448. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. If you would, please like and subscribe. We really want to get into those recommended settings. That would be fantastic. But enjoy whatever you do this weekend. Watch some college football. You don't have to get super invested. You can hate watch if you want. I'm sure I will be doing some of that. So, Dan, I would say go Bucks, but I guess we'll just say goodbye.
No, hell no. Go Bucks.
Yeah, go Bucks. Just enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, everybody. Go Bucks.